I'm Chris Cuomo. You ready? Let's get after it. We got big news in politics today. Biden and Trump are going to debate, not once, but twice. First, though, I want to tell you something that actually matters to your interests, okay? Many of you have asked about my recent criticism that Israel should allow media to be on the ground in Gaza. NewsNation agrees and has sent a letter demanding access. Why? Well, the obvious. There's no way a conflict of this magnitude should be going on without a fair appraisal from the ground. And I have to be honest, I understand why the IDF, why Israeli politicians would be concerned about people seeing what they're doing, but that's only more reason to have people see what they're doing. And also, they're worried that they may injure journalists, as they have in the past. But that is not their choice to make. That is the choice of a free media. And that is a choice that we freely make. So I encourage you, if you care about seeing the reality on the ground, figuring out how bad the suffering is, what the real numbers are, or getting close to it, let it be known that you want to see more coverage of the actual realities. The players pay attention to social media. Your voice will be heard. All right? So, what's the big headline? The media is elated. Presidential debates are coming. One could come as soon as next month. President Biden started it all off with an announcement that was really more of a taunt.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Ooh, burn. Because Wednesdays are when the Trump trial is not in session. Trump's response was a long thing. Let's get ready to rumble. Moments later, Biden accepted a second debate in September and tweeted, "I'll bring my plane, too. I plan on keeping it for another 4 years." Little point of correction here. Ain't your plane, it's our plane. Now, could this still blow up? Absolutely. Why? Who knows? Especially when Trump is in the mix, right? And there are all these variables about the outlet. You got CNN and ABC, who are the moderators. They decide they don't like what the moderator said when they get close to the debate. Both men are being told, though, that they could lose this election, okay? And this is absolutely a war of attrition, right? This is a battle to the bottom. This is about who dies the slowest, right? So they're likely to want to decide their own fate, and that's what debates represent. So they should be a go. So what are we so excited about? Here's a reminder of what these guys looked like when they debated each other years ago when they were younger.
A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So, Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
Vote now.
You're going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer
senator.
the question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
You want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
your,
man?
Listen,
Couple of points, okay? I am actually pro-debate. The reason there's too much pressure is because there's too few. So it's got to be lines. It's got to be gotchas. They're so worried. There's so much stakes because there's so few at-bats. I believe the candidates should be trading ideas all the time. And anybody who really believes in their ideas, who has a philosophy, who wants to serve for a good reason, they should be desperate to be making their case, especially in comparison, especially in direct contrast, everywhere for the duration of a campaign, wouldn't you? But we've seen less and less of it. Why? Because it's about the parties and retention of power in a zero-sum game. That's what it is. You people are cheated on purpose in favor of the parties hiding their candidates and battling it out in deceptive commercials. It should be about you and your concerns. That's why I think I would have loved to have heard that whoever's going to hold the debates, whatever channel, that there would be no moderator. None. I would have them at best off to the side, that every once in a while, if there's something outrageous or you want to come up with some gimmick, fine. But I don't believe that you need someone controlling the flow. Let them interrupt. Let them be rude. You're adults. You know how to assess that. You do it everywhere else in your life. And I really hope that the speculation that mics may be cut if somebody doesn't respond to a cue, I hope that's wrong. That's embarrassing for any moderator, because it's proof you can't control the man. And they probably can't. And it is a disservice to you, because you should be able to hear what they think is worth saying. Last point before we get to why each side likes their chances. The debates may matter more than many think. And I get why it's easy to dismiss them. But so many of you this time around have low opinions of both of these men, more than we've ever seen. The highest number of "I don't want either" I've ever seen in a matchup. It's so high that a head-to-head matchup may make the difference. Because this is, again, clearly not a battle of ideas. It's not about plans. It's not about philosophy. It's about naked ambition for one of them and a desire to hold on by the other. Now, the first question is, hey, are we missing somebody at the table here? Should Bobby Kennedy Jr. be in there? He seems to think so. Put out a tweet. Happy to report that I meet the criteria. I'm going to be able to participate because I'm going to be on enough ballots. The quick answer is probably not. The ballot criteria, the one he outlines is one of several, but there's little indication that he can meet all of them. First of all, there's little indication he can win, and that should matter, let alone meet the polling threshold. But that threshold matters. You need 15% above. You have to be above 15 in 4 polls, recognized polls, in a month. He hasn't met that yet. Now, do you think he should? I actually do. Here's why. Again, I know I just said he can't win, but that's not the only value proposition. I believe the parties rigged the election to favor their ambitions over yours. And I think especially when you have the least popular matchup in history, that I believe is proof of the failure of the party system, and I hope you do too. So you can force reforms of open primaries in the state where you live so you can get out of the damn party. You should have a voice up there showing how undesirable the other two are. But let's get to the players. We have the co-chair of the Republican National Committee on Arrangements, David Bossie, and former traveling press secretary on Biden's 2020 campaign, Michael LaRosa. It's good to have you both. Do either of you want Kennedy on the stage? No. Okay. So let's go to why you think you're going to win. I start with you, Brother Bossie. Why do you believe this is a good development for former President Trump?
Because he's going to be able to show very clearly that Joe Biden is the worst president in American history. The Biden record, the cratering mess that is America right now, whether it is foreign policy, the economy, our southern border, he wins hands down, poll after poll. You look at what the important issues are to the American people, whether it is crime or the border. Donald Trump is decimating Joe Biden. And that is why he's so desperate to have to debate, because Donald Trump has called him out, calls him out regularly, and no one thinks Joe Biden can stand for 2 hours. Look, just in the 13-second video, they had to do 5 different cuts to make 13 seconds, to be able to put 13 seconds together. Chris, it's outrageous that this guy thinks he's going to be able to handle Donald Trump.
I will warn you, though. I'll warn you, Dave. Don't set too low a bar. You guys did that on the State of the Union. If you just make it whether or not he can stand there for 2 hours, you're setting yourself up for an easy loss. Michael LaRosa, let me bring him in here, and then you guys will talk to each other. All right? Okay? You know I love you, Dave. So, Michael, how do you see the proposition for the president?
Well, I think they did something today that they haven't really done, and I think it speaks to where we are in the campaign. But they're taking a risk, and this isn't a team that usually takes risks. But I think they won the day because they've also done something that they never really do, and that they changed the story. You're doing your A block tonight on Joe Biden's decision to do these debates and to challenge Donald Trump to these debates or accept the challenges. they don't change the story that often, but they managed to do that today. And, I think what you're seeing is they are eager to, like 4 years ago, show the contrast between the two of them. Because whenever Donald Trump is the center of attention, the American people get really turned off. And the reason why we know that is because of the last 3 election cycles, the voting behavior. The polls are what they are. You're absolutely right. But look at the voting behavior of the people who are actually going to the polls when Donald Trump is either on the ballot or center stage.
Look, you're both grown-ups. Talk to each other. Talk to each other about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just correct the record for a second. The Biden campaign hopes that it changes the narrative, but it's not changing the narrative. And you know why? Because the American people still have 20% inflation on everything across the board since Joe Biden has been president. Gas is up 55%. Food is up 21%. Rent is up 21%. That is what, at the kitchen table, people are talking about. Not talking about the debates. We're talking about it on TV. But your average American, they don't care about that. They care about what's hurting their wallets, what is hurting their family, crime, illegal immigration, and the economy, and the burning, out-of-control wars that are going on across this country. That's what the American people care about every day, and that's why Donald Trump's going to win.
Do you think Biden has a case that he can make in contrast? Go ahead.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? The thing about my campaign experience, my experience at the White House, when we came in, most presidents and most campaigns and new administrations get to celebrate going into the White House. We couldn't. We spent the night before the inauguration and the night of the inauguration at memorial services, mourning the 400,000 lives lost because Donald Trump was such an embarrassing failure as a president. You can say what you want about gas prices and inflation. The economy shut down, schools shut down, businesses shut down. And then we had to come in and clean up his mess. And we had to mourn 400,000 people the night before our inauguration because of what they did to this country. And I think we're going to remind them every single day from now on.
I'm going to remind you
that
this is the China virus, not the Republican virus.
Oh, yeah.
No. You're blaming the virus on the Republican Party.
Where Ivanka...
Oh, come on. Be a serious person for a moment. You can't blame the Republican Party on the China virus, okay? So just stop, because that's a ridiculous thing to do.
The China virus.
It's a ridiculous thing to do.
Okay, well...
It actually came here from Europe, by the way. Started in China, went to Europe, came here. But the point is, hey, don't you think, though? Wait, I'm glad I have you guys on this for a second, because this is a pet project of mine. Do you think that either of the people on the stage would accept the idea that we need a 9/11 style commission to look back at the pandemic and to see which decisions were made and when, and what was right and what was wrong, and what needs to be done now? Because a lot of people want to move on and just trade these shots. Do you think Trump would be open, Dave, to having a 9/11 style commission to look at what was done in his administration?
Well, first of all, he wants to find out the origin and hold people accountable for the origin. Yes, he's absolutely, and he's been saying that for 4 years.
Good. I think the origin matters.
That things
origin matters.
But the origin is what matters, so that we're holding people accountable, and so that it doesn't ever happen again.
Love it. Because we haven't. You had 2 administrations in a row. Both of you, if we were in the same room, I'd give you a because both of you let it go about where it came from, because you didn't really have the leverage on China. Trump didn't. Biden didn't.
Well, we were also...
I'm just saying, I know we were in the middle of a pandemic, but I'm just saying, you guys spent plenty of time chasing after each other about things that matter a lot less. That's all I'm saying. Second thing, though.
We also had to take things very seriously.
Well, but it is serious where it came from, because we still don't know if the virus was designed to do certain things. But hold on, Michael. Do you think Biden would be open to a review where they look at mandates and they look at the lockdown and whether or not those were moves that made a positive difference in this country?
Yeah, of course. I don't want to speak for Biden or the Biden campaign, but I can't.
You're not here to speak for me, brother.
I would support it. I would support it.
All right.
I would urge him to do it, sure. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that these are actually going to happen? Last question for you guys. Do you think that this is really legit? Because you think, like Dave, I'll give it to you first. If between now and then, Jake Tapper says we shouldn't cover Trump's speeches, the guy's a pathological liar, what's the chance that Trump is like, I'm not going into a CNN house and doing a debate? I was surprised he said yes so fast.
I believe Donald Trump is dedicated to doing the debates, not only the two. He wants one a month, one in June, July, August, September, for the reason that you were talking about, Chris. He believes the American people are owed the opportunity
Listen,
to be
we
able
would
to
have had
see
you
these
guys
two
here without a
candidates
moderator.
on the stage.
We would have
most.
given you guys a whole hour
and
just to
NewsNation,
talk to each other.
Yeah, and let me tell you, Chris, NewsNation should have a debate, I think, because you guys did such an amazing job on the last one. And so to give it to CNN, I disagree with, but that's where the Biden camp went. Biden camp went to safety and security with CNN. Donald Trump doesn't care where he goes because he knows he can handle it.
Mike, do you think that Biden would be open to going to, a neutral ground like NewsNation?
Sure, why not? I think so. I think
he's ducked us so far. He hasn't even done an interview with anybody at the network.
This guy's a competitor. The whole family, the Biden family, if they're not anything, they're very competitive. He wants to debate. I think
he doesn't know what day it is.
See, he doesn't know what you mean. Like the former president who held a 12x15 photo of a woman to his face, and he couldn't tell that it wasn't his ex-wife. That guy. The guy who slurs his words, the guy who talks about magnets and Hannibal Lecter. Is that who you're talking about?
Joe Biden, that
guy?
If you look at the polling data, the average American knows that Joe Biden is not cognitively capable of doing the job. That is why his numbers are in the tank. You can talk about a picture all you want. The American people know Joe Biden is not capable of the job, and they're scared to death every single day when they wake up because they can't wait to get rid of this guy. He's leaving America a smoking crater.
How did that infrastructure bill come? How'd that work out? How come he's going to get that infrastructure bill done? Come on, we're still waiting for it.
We're talking about a smoking crater that is America, and you're talking about an infrastructure bill.
Let's leave it there. Gentlemen.
Name one bill he passed.
Gentlemen.
Name one bill he passed. Name one.
He had a tough legislative go except for the tax thing, but that's what you get when you got politics of complete opposition. But look, I think it'll help the American people to see these two guys next to each other.
We lost.
Go ahead, I'm listening to you. Finish your point.
We lost 13 seats. We lost 13 seats going into that administration.
I know.
It was a margin as close as Trump had. And we were able to get done 300 pieces of bipartisan legislation and work with Republicans and Democrats.
That's a point. The question is, can Biden argue it as well as you just did? That's what a debate is about. We'll see. It's not just about the record. It's not about the facts. It's about how you do on that stage and in that moment, and that'll be the test.
You're right.
Dave Bossy, Michael LaRosa, I appreciate you both.
The pressure.
I appreciate you both.
Thanks very much.
I just got to go because I fear you guys, but not as much as Dusty. 4 minutes, 5 seconds. Coming up, big outrage. Look, I like debates. I like it spicy. I like that kind of party. That's me. I believe we need more of it because you learn. You know things about Dave Bossy now and Mike LaRosa you didn't know before. That's why I kind of stay out of it, But I believe that about the 9/11 Commission on the pandemic. We need to learn our lessons because we haven't. Okay. Vicious beating right in the heart of Times Square, right? Remember the migrants? Okay. Everybody was upset. They beat up cops. Now they're getting cut or offered plea deals. Does that sound like justice? Next. Remember what happened in New York City a few months ago? 7 migrants viciously attacked cops right in the heart of Times Square. The cops were trying to break up a group that was there. And some of them were in court yesterday. All but one of them was offered a plea deal. Okay, this has got a lot of people pissed. One of the accused cop beaters who was out on bail was arrested again last Friday after allegedly trying to steal some clothes and merch at Macy's. He was charged petty larceny and criminal possession of stolen property related, both misdemeanors. Set free again the next day. So offering these guys plea deals, does that satisfy justice? Okay, let's bring in attorney, former FBI special agent, Stu Kaplan. Stu, it's good to see you, brother, as always. First of all, the main problem is the one guy is like a metaphor for the rotisserie system, right? He gets involved with a cop. They let him out. He breaks a law again. And the judge was yelling at him pretty good. But let's start there. That's the problem, right? You don't stop people doing small crimes. It's only a matter of time before they do bigger ones, right?
That is correct. I mean, these individuals have shown a total disrespect to the criminal justice system. And certainly anybody who's willing to assault a uniformed police officer or police officers certainly poses a greater risk to you and I. And so, just to cut right to the issue, though, plea offers, plea negotiations, that in and of itself is not unusual. In fact, That's very typical. Keep in mind, they're being offered, or some of them being offered, what's considered in New York State a D felony. They can be punished up to 7 years. Personally, I don't think 7 years is enough to punish these individuals. But again, the prosecutors have to weigh and measure the evidence, and they got to be sure that they can prove that these cops were injured. Now, bruises, cuts and scrapes are not typically considered injuring a police officer. I know that kind of sounds ironic. That usually falls within, resisting with violence. And so, 2 years, does it inflame or concern or upset us? Yes. But if you leave out the legalities of their status or their lack of status here in the United States, it's not outside the realm of what potentially would be offered in a case like this.
You know what I want the audience to know right now? Sometimes when you come on, Stu, I'll get comments afterwards about wow, Stu really has very strong politics that come out in his argumentation. I said, yeah, that's why I have him on. I want you guys to be kind of exposed to fulsome perspectives. That was a very measured thing that Stu just told you. He could very easily jump up and down and say, a deal? What are you, crazy? You don't give people like this a deal. But your explanation of why, because you don't know, you may lose the case. Cops, it's a higher bar with them. So that's not what bothers you about this situation.
Not at all. I mean, look, 2 years is 2 years in state prison. Again, it's a lesser
included. Why not just deport him?
I think the offer is... Well, and there again, unfortunately, New York City or New York State does not have the authority to force the federal government to, detain and remove these individuals. And quite frankly, that's what should happen. In fact, look, Chris, this is not a political statement. I would be somewhat upset with respect to having to house and feed these individuals for a year or two. Right. Let's just put them on a plane and send them back to their country of origin and call it a day. So
I want your take on what Mayor Eric Adams said today. And here's why I'm playing this, okay? Dusty, it is a soundbite, right? All right. But here's why. If Trump said this, I would air it, okay? So Eric Adams says it. He's a Democrat. And I haven't really heard it anywhere. And I think that's screwed up. So listen to this.
If we had a migrant and asylum seeker plan, how do we have a large body of people that are in our city and country that are excellent swimmers, and at the same time we need lifeguards?
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, so... Look, obviously, it's insensitive, right? Because they're good swimmers, because these people, are risking their lives. They die all the time trying to make it across the Rio Grande and other waterways. He says, oh, no, I meant that. I got that from my interviews with the migrants. They told me stories of how strong their swimming is. That's why I said it. What's your take on this and what it says about our level of politics?
Chris, look, I'm all for immigration. This is the greatest country on the planet. I think my biggest comment is it's such a slap in the face to those individuals who have followed the letter of the law, who have waited 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get through the application process and to be sworn in as a United States citizen. And I can tell you personally, I know individuals, they cry, they kiss the ground that they walk on. They are blessed and feel part of this community, part of our nation. They are so happy. They join the armed forces. They join our military, our law enforcement community, our hospitals, our every walk of life. That is one thing that I think is disrespectful to those people that follow the rule of law. The other thing is, I don't have any problem with respect to people being properly vetted and coming in temporarily and contributing to our society. Unfortunately, what the government has failed to control, there is a large element, or there is an element of individuals that are coming from various countries that have been let out of their jails and in a way to release or decrease the tension there, and now their problem childs have become our bigger problems. We have enough problems here in the United States. We don't need to adopt other issues. And that's where I think the problem is. And Chris, one last thing.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
I got another question, so it's not the last thing. Go ahead.
Look, you talk to a mother or father who's in the public school system, who has children in the public school system. You talk to people that have to go to the emergency room. And so the wait is 12, 14, 24 hours to go see a doctor, or to be in a school where this class capacity should be 30. And that is correct. And so where's the balancing? We don't have the infrastructure to support these people.
Look, there's no question. Now, and if you want to build out the infrastructure, great. You got to get them working. You got to have tax rolls taken. You got to have employers stop taking advantage. You know, to me, this issue has always been a metaphor for, it's like my word of the night, for all of our problems of governance. You got to care about people. This is a nation of immigrants. But you don't care about them by having a system that isn't safe and isn't efficient and effective. That takes me to my last question to you. So Biden, and this is an obvious naked election year play. There's no reason to qualify it any other way. He has slept on the border for years because the left flank of his party doesn't like the idea of what they see as harshness and enforcement. Now, he knows the issue is killing him. He announces when the flow is above 4,000, I'm going to do an executive order that I can shut down the border as an emergency measure. We are well above 4,000, so he could do it as soon as he signs this. Do you like the move?
No, I think, look, if I speak to the FBI director, Chris Wray would tell you not one individual should cross that border without being properly vetted and documented. And so this idea, so we're going to accept 4,000 potential, bad actors into our country, and when we get to 4,001, then we hit the stop button. I mean, that in and of itself is ridiculous. And Chris, may I just also suggest, this is not a political statement, because I've been at times very critical of the FBI, which, to me is the greatest law enforcement agency in the world. Chris Wray has not once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times in the last year and a half gone before Congress. He's sounding the alarm directly related to the uncontrolled borders, because he knows on his watch, it's not if, it's just a matter of when, we may see something much greater than we could have ever imagined prior to 9/11. He is so worried about that.
Right.
And I can't understand. A lot of people just are keeping a blinded eye, and they're, just deaf to it. And that's a real risk to our national security.
No question. God forbid, nobody wants to see that.
Absolutely.
But I have to say, there are plenty of Stu Kaplans who are shocked. I mean, we've done so much. We've come so far since 9/11 with our policing and our intelligence work, but it's amazing how long we've gone without being hit, especially with how we're agitating in the Middle East right now. Stu Kaplan, I appreciate the conversation as always. Until the next time, thank you.
Always my pleasure.
4 minutes, 30 seconds, always, bud. All right, we'll be back. The case of the 6-year-old boy forced by his father to run on a treadmill. I got to find a better way to explain this story, because the kid's dead, all right? And it's not just about the treadmill thing. This kid had bite marks on him. There was a pattern of extended abuse that is disgusting, and it screams for detection. It was so obvious. The boy was being brought back bruised. The mother complained 100 times. I'm not making up like a big number. Why was it ignored by CPS? We're coming at this from every angle, because you can't just let it go by saying this is a bad daddy. It's deeper. And we have a CPS whistleblower who knows that. Next. Father's on murder charges for what he did to his 6-year-old son in New Jersey. It's going on right now. We know the guy, 31-year-old Christopher Grego. The guy's a monster, okay? He is. Of course he deserves to go through the process. Of course there's a presumption of innocence. But there's tape. It's clear what's going on here. You've seen the court TV trial footage. The father forcing the kid to run on the treadmill really fast. He said he was too fat. Even bit his head. Autopsy showed repeated abuse, lacerated liver and heart. This is really, really bad stuff. 6-year-old's name was Corey. Now, I want to put up a list there. This is not going to go away, okay? This is not going to be just about this dad, all right? This happens too often. And your money and my money goes in to having this not happen. CPS is supposed to do its job. These people don't want to talk to us, okay? I'm telling you, if you're watching this show, or you know Platkin, or you know Gallucci, or you know Smith and Kim, they're the politicians. I could go either way. Howell, Wolf, if you think you're not going to have to answer questions about this, you are dead wrong, okay? I'm telling you, this is going to happen. If you want to come on and discuss, I would love that, and I will treat you with respect. If you do not, you are not going to avoid answering for this. That's all I'll say. All right, now, the mother, Brianna Micholo, shared custody with Gregor. Now, part of the problem was Micholo is an addict, and because of that, they gave deference to the parent who wasn't. Little did they know, or should they have known, that the parent who wasn't an addict was actually something worse, known as a monster. The mother, who's an addict, made reports to New Jersey's Child Welfare Agency more than 100 times over a year and a half. No one did a thing. Why? Okay? That's why we got to get the answers. And if they're not going to talk to us, then we're going to force it. That's just the way it is. That's the job. Now, I want to bring in Jessica Price. She is the author of Broken: Transforming Child Protective Services, Notes of a Former Caseworker. Jessica, it's great to have you. And I just want to say from the top, you guys are the angels among us. Social workers and caseworkers and people who do intervention to help kids. You see the worst of us on a daily basis, and your work should be celebrated. That's why it's so horrible to see when a kid like this is just ignored by the system. What's your take on what you understand about this?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me. The first thing I'll say is this is such a stunning case. It's horrific, and he deserved better. And as a former caseworker, I can't overstate how complex the job is. So thank you for stating what you just did. It is difficult. But even with the difficulties of the job, we have to take accountability for what happened in this case. I've been mulling it over for weeks, just like you have, trying to figure out how we missed the ball. And what keeps coming to mind, Chris, is when I was in the field, there was this line between the family court and CPS. And again, do I know definitively if that's the reason? No. But I know that CPS often wants to avert risk. They want to say, hey, that's not my territory. Talk to the judge, talk to your attorneys. But I want CPS to realize that we can't do child safety alone, but we have to set the tone. We've got to be the leader because we're the experts in how do we keep kids safe. And as you know, we're good about overreaching in the lives of families that may not need the level of surveillance.
I'm well aware.
But then now we're underreaching, and it's
so. Let's look at the why, though, Jessica. In this particular case, as the facts present themselves to you, as we're learning about them, 100 times. To me, it's got to be, what was it? Because she's an addict. You know what I mean? Is it that she was seen as not credible? That maybe they took a look at the dad and took a look at her and said, "Oh, this is what she's trying to do. She's trying to get the kid back." But she said she was showing pictures and stuff of the kid's injuries. So. 100 times. How do you explain that never registering, at least with a home visit of just a look at the kid?
So I don't think I'm going to be able to find an answer to that because it's egregious to ignore that many calls. But I will say that you're well aware of the turnover in the workforce. I don't know the span of time that those calls came in. Mm-hmm. If we're trying to find some ways that it could have been missed, it could be caseworkers coming in and out, vacillating, bringing new people in, and it falling through the cracks. The workforce crisis is so vast and intractable with child welfare right now. So that came to mind. And back to what you said, unfortunately, implicit bias plays a big role in this. that part of all of us that knows the past of a person and dismisses them as credible. And I talk about this a lot, particularly with folks that are economically marginalized and also racially marginalized. Mm-hmm. I don't know the socioeconomic, wave between her and the child's father, but sometimes we have this level of bias toward parents to say, oh, she's not credible, and we're going to stick and keep the child with the dad.
And look, we hear that the dad lived in a nice house and all that stuff, but I'm just saying, I know so many good families, and so do you, and I know so many poor people who've had wildly similar experiences, which is somebody doesn't like you, they call you up and say, hey, that Jessica Price, I heard that she likes to swing a bat at her kid's head whenever he doesn't do his homework. Even if I've never met you before, someone's coming to your house, and they're coming with a cop. Here, 100 times, she says the guy's abusing my kid. Never went. Don't you think that these people should stop ducking my answers, my questions, and answer for why they did this, the people who run in the agency?
Absolutely. I believe that they need to be transparent. They need to be accountable. As I shared, I played a big role in even doing some training in New Jersey, and they are very intentional about revamping the system. So to your point, I do hope they talk to you and explain how this might have happened.
Jessica Price, again, people should take a look at your book. Put it up on the screen again, please. And because, look, it's about change agents, and you got to understand it in order to change it. And Jessica did the job, and she knows what needs to change, broken. If you care about this, get the book. Jessica Price, to be continued as we learn more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Up next, Dusty says you guys are vibing off this CPS thing. Look, the case bothers you. I know so many guys say to me, man, I would love to get my hands on that father. Hey, man, that may make you feel better, but the kid's gone. How do we change the system? I'll take your calls next. Hundred times mother said, this father's abusing my kid. They didn't even get a home visit out of it. How can that be okay? If I were to call right now and not even know you, Dusty, bring in here because I want to take the calls, and say, hey, I heard that so-and-so is beating their kid. You're getting someone coming to your house. And I can do it anonymously. But here, they never went. Who do you got on the phone?
Okay, we have Gina from Texas.
Gina, what's your question?
Hi, Chris. So I just watched your segment, and it's super sad. And I actually have a story myself that is very similar to it. I had CPS called on me by my ex-husband and his wife. CPS showed up to my doorstep. I complied with everything that was requested of me as far as my drug test and things like that. I had a relapse that happened back in 2023, so they hair follicle tested me, coerced me into giving over my children to their father. They had a safety plan put in place that I had to that I was forced to sign, saying that I had supervised visits with my children. I had to go to counseling once a week and outpatient therapy 3 times a week. So that happened for about 6 months. I ended up losing my visits with my children because I had prescription medication that was making me fail drug tests. CPS was not reporting it to the lab. They removed any contact at that point with my children almost completely. I had to pretty much beg my ex-husband for even a phone call. All of this happened with no court order.
So this was all hyper-punitive. And this is the more common thing, is that they err on the side of overreach. First of all, Gina, thank you very much for having the strength of character to talk about your struggle. This is not about you know, whether you're good or bad. This is about how you're dealing with an illness, and I respect you for it. And thank you for making the point, which is usually they overreach. They usually do too much, as you're saying they did in your case. And here, they did nothing. Gina, thank you. I'll talk to you again. Next.
I wish we had more time because we have a ton of these calls, but let's go to Sherry from Wisconsin with a quick one of her own stories of CPS.
Sherry, what do you got?
Hi, I have a personal situation where I called CPS for my 2-year-old niece. several times. She would be beat for wetting her diaper. She would be on timeouts in the toilet. She was beat on her back and had scars. Her front teeth knocked out when she was 3 years old. And then the police would come, they'd usually call, but they came 3 times. And because there was a story as to what happened, they just left without the child. So I finally had a 3-hour sit down with CPS to go over everything going on, including sexual abuse. And at the end of that conversation, she said, to be transparent, the child has to be pretty much on their deathbed for us to get involved.
Jeez.
That's too late for me, but I was wondering, is that a Wisconsin issue or a national issue?
No, it's both, right? Because they're overwhelmed. And the foster care system is overwhelmed and woefully inadequate. And we don't deal with this, man, because we don't take care of each other the way we're supposed to. We're all about division and who's worse and what's worse. And as a result, the needy suffer. We don't have the resources. We don't have the workers. We don't have the capacity. We don't have the places to put people. So is it Wisconsin? Yes. Is it national? Yes. And, imagine if that's what our politics were about. Who's got the better plan to fix that? Who can make it happen? Instead, you're a liar. You touch people. No, you touch people. That's what we've become. Just a battle to the bottom of bull. That's what we are. And these are the problems we got to focus on. Thank you for telling me this story. And we could go on all night, but we can't. So let me take a break, and I'll come back with a final thought. Credit. He was this legendary CBS, but then NBC correspondent many years ago, for talking to his friend Teddy Kennedy about why he wanted to run for president. And Teddy fumbled the question, couldn't answer it. And it went down in the history of moments in media, but not for the right reason. Philosophy matters. What your why is matters. Why you want to serve, what matters to you, what you want to be about, it matters. We've gotten way too far away from it.